Welcome to Blue Heron Hill, and I'm in my kitchen today. I have a harvest. I have chives. Now, chives are great harvested all year long, but they're one of the first things that come up, along with asparagus, which we've been eating abundantly already. But now's a great time, before they actually flower, to cut off a bunch, and I'm gonna chop these up. I'm going to make a seasoning mix out of chives and garlic and some other ingredients. So come along with me and let's start. The first thing I'm going to do is dice these up. This is a seasoning mix that I'm making, so I'm going to want these dried, and then I'm going to dry them in my dehydrator. But first of all, I'm going to dice them up into small little rounds. Now, of course, everybody knows that chives are great fresh in salads, from a lettuce salad to a potato salad, you name it, even in your breakfast omelets or scrambles with eggs. They're very versatile. But in this particular recipe, I need them chopped or diced up into small pieces. This looks to be about a cup. We'll see. Now, my dehydrator has trays that look like this. Those are going to fall right through. So I have a little silicone insert that I'll put on here so they don't fall through. This might take a couple trays. If you spread them out really thin, they'll dry faster. Now this step, of course, as you all know, is going to take a while. It may take a few hours to fully dry. And we want them fully dried because this is a seasoning mix which will be shelf stable for a number of months, if you can even refrain from using it. The recipe will make a wonderful dip and a wonderful seasoning for all sorts of things. And I will do a couple recipes that I have for this when I mix it all up. So I'm going to start my dehydrator, get it cranking, and I'll be back when these are all dried. See you then. One suggestion I do have is, if you do use a dehydrator, you find a place outside of your house to do it. The chives are oniony, and so that odor is going to permeate your house. So it's best to find a porch or someplace outside, unless of course you don't mind the intense oniony smell that you're going to get as these things dry out. So what do you do when your garlic is starting to sprout? I have a number left over from last year. I had a spectacular crop. And some of these are starting to sprout. Well, in this recipe, it calls for garlic. So I am, in addition to dehydrating my chives, I am going to dehydrate a number of trays of garlic. You can see that here is where it's starting to push up that new sprout. And actually, here's one too, but I don't throw those away. They're still good, they're still flavorful, and they'll make a great addition to this seasoning. Okay, back when these are all dried. Back again. All of my garlic is dried and my chives are dried. And so now we're ready to add all of our other ingredients together to form this wonderful spice herb mix. So come on down close and I'll show you what I've got going. Okay, here's my dried garlic, and it's really easy to break up. So, but what I'm gonna do is I'm going to rough chop it. I could powder it up in a coffee grinder or a food processor or something like that. But in this recipe, I want it to have a few chunks of the garlic. And I don't want it all powdered. Not a total rough chop, but a little chunky, but not a fine powder. So what we're aiming for is, for the recipe, is 5 tablespoons of this chopped garlic. Here I have my dried chives. What I had in the previous part of the video, I went out and got more to get me up to about 6 tablespoons of dried chives. A cup of chopped fresh chives, when dehydrated, will give you about 4 tablespoons. So I needed more, and I went out and I got some more and dried it. So this is 6 tablespoons of dried chives, and I'm going to chop up a total of 5 tablespoons of chopped garlic. Now the last of this I can grind up into garlic powder. If you don't do this method and you want to add garlic powder, I would suggest maybe about 2 tablespoons of garlic powder. That's very highly concentrated when you have it in the powdered form. So we have 6 tablespoons of dried chives, 5 tablespoons of chopped garlic. Now I also add some onion. You can use onion powder if you wish. These are dried onions from last year's crop. And so I'm just going to give these a rough chop. And this is roughly 2 tablespoons of the onion. Also, you can add onion powder, and I would probably add maybe a teaspoon of onion powder. Then it calls for black pepper, 1 teaspoon of black pepper, and some kosher salt, about a tablespoon of kosher salt. At times I've added other herbs, as dill would be one, thyme would be another. You can experiment if you like. And that's just basically the entire recipe. And you just mix it up. Now, once all mixed up, put it in a mason jar or any airtight container. There we go. That's so refreshingly beautiful. That beautiful green of the chives. And the smell is wonderful. So let's mix up a dip recipe. For a quick vegetable dip, you could use about a cup of yogurt. This is just Greek yogurt, non-flavored, plain. Actually, it's homemade. And then, or you could use sour cream or any combination of both. You're going to take your seasoning mix, only 2 teaspoons, or 3 if you wish. I'll just put in half another one. And then to the seasoning mix, just to soften it up a little bit, I'll put in 2 tablespoons of water. Mix it around a little bit. It helps the herbs start to release their flavor. And then we add this to our yogurt. This is really best if you let it set in the refrigerator for, an hour or so. So the yogurt is then infused with all these luscious aromatics that you have going on in this dip. So at this point, you want to give it just a little taste. Very good. You can taste it now. It may need, to your liking, might need a little bit more salt. Oops, I double dipped. But it definitely will taste better if you let it set in the fridge for a few hours, a couple hours at least. This seasoning is also great on baked potatoes. If you do the twice baked, you scoop out the baked potato and mash it all together. Put this with maybe about 3 to 4 teaspoons of the seasoning mix, mixed in with a little sour cream or yogurt or whatever in your baked potatoes. Put them back in the shells, put them back in the oven, warm them up. It's delicious. It's great on chicken breasts. It's great on fish. And my favorite way is on scrambled eggs or easy eggs in the morning, just a little sprinkle of it. It's so good. If you don't have the fresh herbs growing in your garden, go to the market, get the fresh herbs. It'll make a world of difference in the taste and the flavor that they will impart to the seasoning mix. So thank you for joining me on this video and into my kitchen. Now that the harvesting season has begun, now that this gardening season is off to a big start, and I'm starting to harvest some of the early things that are in my garden, I will have more cooking videos and recipes for herb spice mixes, things like that. Thank you for following along with me on this video. If you haven't already, I welcome you to subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. Comment if you have any questions. I'll be glad to answer them. And share this on all your social media platforms. And so until the next time that we can go digging in the dirt, happy gardening. Bye.